Welcome to episode 2 of Ransom Notes. Today, Davis and I are going to be having a little discussion on overpricing your home, simply because I've seen a lot of listings come up that aren't just a little bit overpriced to where they're probably still pulling some offers. They're just like ridiculously overpriced. You had some interesting thoughts earlier before I had some camera trouble.
Yeah, I think some agents do it just to buy the listing because they know that there's maybe 3 people being interviewed for this listing. Then they think if they can get in their seller's head that I can get X amount more for your house, then you should go with me. When in fact, they're not going to be able to do that. All they're doing is giving you false promises.
Yeah. But I do know agents that have done that and still do that. Reason being, if you can convince someone, and this is totally unethical in my opinion, and immoral, and just a bad practice, and it's why we're grouped into categories with used car salesmen, attorneys, and people in professions that are usually disliked, is because they go in and now you have somebody in a 6-month to a year-long contract at a specific price. Now, they can't break that contract without you doing it, but they can request a price reduction. And I feel like that's kind of the tactic that a lot of these agents will use. Yeah, we'll sell your house for $3 million. Well, maybe it's a $2.2 million house. But, well, so-and-so and agents X, Y, and Z told me it was worth 2.2, possibly 2.3. They're fucking idiots. They have no idea what they're talking about. I work this area. I have these sales. Look at all my volume I've done. $1 billion over the last 10 years. So I know I'm talking about, go with me. And then a month later, why aren't we getting showings?
Price reduction.
Yeah, price reduction. Here's the feedback. It's not the house location. People just keep talking about price.
Yep. And then I think a few of these people that do that know from the beginning that that's what they're going to do. And you can look up their previous sales and see like, oh, why does agent blah, blah, blah always have a price reduction at 30 days?
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious.
That's because that's what they say. Oh, we'll go with it. I mean, that's mine. As I go backwards, I'll give someone the actual number. And then I'll tell them, if you want to price higher, it's not going to benefit you. But at the end of the day, if that's what you want to do, I'm not going to forego this sale in order to prove my point to you. So let's do it, but just promise me, when week 3 hits, if we don't have an offer in hand that you're willing to accept, we have to go with my price.
Yeah, I usually like to say, like, here's what I think it'll sell for. Now, there's 2 ways to sell. We can price it accordingly, maybe a little higher and then take an offer lower.
Yeah.
Or we can come in a little below and hope to get multiple offers and then go with the best one.
Yeah. And each house is different. I don't think there's a way to do it for every house. I think for some homes that may have difficulty selling, it might be smarter to price it low to get that interest and that price to catch people's eyes and attention. And if you have a super nice dialed in house and you know someone's going to pay a lot of money for it, maybe stretch it a little bit and see if you can get a little bit more than you thought.
Yeah, for sure. But coming in just with that one oddball price because the neighbor down the street got this amount for is not a proper tactic.
I don't think so either. I do agree with you.
We talked about it earlier. Like I've seen a neighbor buy a neighbor's house because it was right next door and they wanted to tear it down and build a bigger yard. Well, they have one customer.
Yeah.
And they're willing to pay because they had to say, like, what's your price to get you to move?
Yeah.
This neighbor wasn't necessarily selling. So
it goes back to supply and demand.
That's not a comp.
If you have one item as your supply and multiple people or even that one other person interested, and that's the only house or the only car that was manufactured in that year with that, style. I mean, I think that's why luxury items, like there's that certain exclusivity to it. You don't have to have a nice house to make it feel exclusive. You just have to have an original house.
Yeah.
That with something that the neighbors don't have.
Yeah, so
then you can mess with pricing.
If you do find yourself shopping around with like 3 or 4 different people to see who you want to go with to list your property, and you have that one person that's, say you have 3 people and you have one person that's way higher than the other 2, ask them for the comps.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy to look at the numbers.
Show the bell-shaped curve.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. It's just like you have to explain to people. And I don't know if I said this earlier or earlier in this podcast thingy, but I had that situation happen where a house should have sold for $200,000 less than it did here downtown. But the problem that created was then everybody else that their house was worth that as well. And I was like, but it's not the house. It was a specific buyer. This is his 3rd property. He owns, millions of square footage of distribution space. And I can't imagine after COVID, I mean, he can pay an extra $200,000 Affect his retirement. It's not going to affect his life, his house, and he wanted that, so he paid the price he needed to because my sellers at the time, and it was off market. I just went to them and he named some crazy price, and I was like, oh, okay, well, let's take it to him. And when I presented that to my buyer, he didn't just completely reject it and throw up on me. He was like, oh, it's a little high, and I'm like, a little? I didn't say it. Inside my brain's going like, oh my God. Well, be honest with him. And I told him where it should sell for, and he made that decision to jump up. And I think that's the other key. As long as you're honest and you're doing the right thing and doing what you're supposed to be doing as an agent, you sleep well at night and you know that you did everything by the book and were moral, it's okay to do.
And that's just to describe those for people wondering. That's just to say these random one-offs. Like, look at the comps, look at the consistency of them.
Yeah.
Don't look at these one-off situations. So how would it hurt a seller to overprice?
Because if that buyer that is willing to pay that price doesn't, I mean, you don't know how often they're going to come around. Like, that situation may not happen again for years. So I think.
And that one was off market.
And it was off market. And it was only because I had listed previously at a high price, which we weren't able to grab at the time.
Yeah.
And I knew in the back of my mind, okay, it's going to take a very special buyer. And so when he was kind of describing what we saw everything on the market, I was like, you know what? Let me make one call. And it worked out.
But for right now, for people like these ones you're seeing right now, how's that going to hurt the seller?
I don't, I just laugh right now because I see some crazy shit like houses built in the 1980s downtown listed over $2 million without, I mean, why would you spend $2 million in that when you can go buy a new fucking construction for the same price with 4 levels, the 4th level being a rooftop deck? Like, why would you do that? There's 0 sense to it. They're going to sit on the market. They're going to waste the time. The agent's going to waste their money. They're going to have one failed sale, or it's going to have an enormous price reduction, which is going to make them agent, like, that's going to follow you. You're going to look like the agent doesn't know what the shit they're doing.
Unless they're out of town, they really don't know what they're doing.
That's true.
Which happens.
Yeah.
But for sellers, hopefully they're listening, like, how would that affect them? Is the house going to sit longer, eventually price reduction, and are they going to ultimately net less money?
Well, then you have to think about the price reduction part of it. Like, say you're at 2.5 and this house, I mean, I don't know where they're at. I'd have to pull the sale back up, or the listing. But, like, say the house should sell for 1.5, which for a 1980s house still kind of feels a little bit high if it's not 100 block ocean view or has been completely remodeled inside. So they're over $2 million. It's going to be a very difficult conversation for you to have with the seller to say, hey, we need to reduce this price by $600,000. That's not going to be a first price reduction. So what's going to happen is you're going to see it go from 2.2, let's say, to 2,150. Maybe 2,050,000 if the agent's really good at presenting a strong case for that. And then still, you're 500 grand off. No one's going to fucking buy it. So then 30 days later, 60 days later, and like you're now in the market for 4 months. And you're seeing 2 tiny price reductions in comparison to where the house actually should be priced. And people aren't fucking stupid.
Yeah.
You got Zillow. You can go look at all the closed sales. You're not fooling anybody. And so I don't understand what's going through the agent's mind to the owner's mind. At the end of by the time they finally reach a sale around that 1.5, 1.6, it's probably going to be lower because everybody's overlooking that house. It has now been on the market for 120 plus days. Why? That's what everybody asks themselves. Why is this house on the market?
I have a scenario for you. I was just looking up some in an area just north of here, and they had a house. It was like 420 days on market.
Yeah.
So that's over a year. So it sat for over a year. And then I was like, okay, it just had an exterior photo. So I started clicking through the photos. It's vacant.
Yeah.
So not only is your house sat for a year, you've paid taxes and no one's lived there.
What was the price of the house? Do you remember?
It was like 2,250,000.
Okay. So not crazy. Like once you get up into like the 5+ million, if you're in a different location where you don't have 1,000, 5+ million sales, you do see the days on market just because those houses are a lot more original and there's a lot more to consider.
Yeah, no, this one, I think it had like $400,000 in price reductions over the span of the 400 days. But it still hasn't sold, and people are going to walk in there now. Maybe it's coming down 400 grand. Maybe it is priced appropriately now, but it's also sat for more than a year. So now people just don't even look at it.
Yeah, that's a huge issue. And I mean, what was I just thinking? Sorry, my brain just ran away.
Time on market, does that?
Oh, it affects it hugely.
Yeah.
You know that. I mean, the way Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, Homes.com, Redfin, any site, they have logarithms that determine, I mean, it pulls from the MLS. Oh, that's what I was going to say. So to your point, if you price it inappropriate, you're screwed. You screwed yourself up unless you come off the market for 90 plus days. That's the only way you're going to get those days on market to reset as a new listing. But in times like this where markets are changing so quickly, like we've had a flood of inventory since Monday in Huntington Beach.
Yeah.
So if you didn't hit the market already and this continues in the pattern that I'm seeing, you missed out. It is what it is.
You kind of already did.
You kind of already did, yeah.
Unless
because
you're closing this week, you're done.
Yeah. And so timing, one, is a huge issue because that 60, 90 days that you're overpriced, you could, if you were in this situation, you overpriced your house now or you did it 2 months ago, you need to slap your agent across the face. You need to look in the mirror and slap yourself across the face. And it's just, you missed out on a lot of money. And not that money is like super crazy and super important. You want to have a good experience. You want to make sure the right buyer is buying your house if you care about that shit. And the timing does have to line up. If you're not ready yet or the house you're thinking of purchasing is a new construction, it's not ready for 4 more months, maybe that's why you overpriced it. But I would have just waited an extra 2 months and priced it appropriately in the first place and made sure that I got that extra 20, 30, 40, 50 grand. That's a car.
Yeah, and
it's helpful.
It comes back to looking at the data from the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, don't just say my house is worth this because I love it. Or my agent says it's worth this and he sells a lot in this neighborhood. If they can't show you the value they're bringing is showing you this data and showing you the history and their experience, if they don't show you that stuff, then they're just pulling numbers out of the air.
Dude, totally.
It's a guess.
And that's something that I've never been able to be super empathetic about because people have eyeballs. And I know there's like an emotional attachment, but when you have like, before terracotta kind of started coming back with like that whole Palm Springs kind of mid-century deserty vibe, it's the ugliest fucking flooring you can have. It's like an orangish kind of pink. It fucks up all the other color palettes in the house. And I literally had someone say this floor is so durable. I'm like, well, yeah, it is. And, there's pros to it, but I was like, it also makes your whole entire $2.3 million house look like shit. So if you just redo the floors, like, you're going to pull an extra $200,000.
Well, the problem too is like you obviously like your house. That's why you bought it in the first place. I do,
but there's a lot of shit wrong with it. And so when I went and pulled comps for it, and I was thinking, I might get like $1,050,000, $1 million bucks. And after I looked at everything, I was like, this is like a $925. And it's easy for me to go, this is just what's selling. This is what other people are going to see, and this is what they're going to pay. I could talk about the location. I have complete privacy wraparound lot, playground for my kids, like an office shed in the back, room for a pool on top of all that, a single story. My house is the greatest, but there's other shit like that exists. Yeah. And it's only a matter of time before that house comes to market and I lose out because I was the dumbass that overpriced my home.
Yeah, you either need to be brand new.
Yeah.
So you're completely with whatever design trend is in right now, or your house needs to be generic.
Yeah.
Don't make like these accent walls and all these weird, funky things. If you did them in 1992, look at what your house would be now. You want that house just generic because you don't know the next person buying it what their style is, and you want to open yourself up to the biggest audience.
And do you think that's why I thought the trend was ending, but I still see it coming in, like the white on white or the white on grays. Lots of grays, neutral tones.
Neutral.
From what I hear and talking to people, everyone's sick of it, but at the same time, you can come in and you can paint a wall. You can make that accent wall something that your favor towards versus like a yellow or something that maybe, I don't know, I like black and brass.
They might be sick of it, but they don't hate it, is the thing. Like, you don't walk into a house and go, oh my God, why did you paint that wall yellow? I hate yellow. Yeah. White's just white. So and that comes back to overpricing. If you overprice, people don't see it. Just like if your house is unique in some way, I use the word unique, I mean strange and like completely your taste and no one else's.
Personalized.
It's
a non-negative word we can use there.
So if your house is personalized in some way, that's going to keep people from looking at it. Certain people are just going to be turned off by it, not looking. Same with overpricing. If it's too high, their search criteria might not even see your house. Maybe they're looking like your example, the house is worth 1.5 downtown, so they set it at 1.6.
Yeah.
They don't even notice that other house.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I know my patterns when I'm searching for homes. If I see something overpriced, I usually will swipe one or two just to see what the interior looks like. But the second I see something that doesn't justify that price, whether it's original carpet or you have some white appliances and you're asking for a price that you should have a premium kitchen included with all stainless steel, brand new, everything, huge island, I swipe. Yeah. I'm off. I don't even go to the next picture.
Yeah, and you need to look at a few pictures. I was looking at one the other day that was overpriced, and they had an interior picture.
Yeah.
But it's usually a neighborhood that they don't use interior pictures. So I'm like, okay, why? The house was like lime green.
Yeah.
So
On the outside, just
they
worse curb appeal.
redid the entire interior of the house, but they left the lime green paint.
That's nuts.
So make sure it's priced appropriately, including your personalizations.
Yeah. Well, and you're going to get like the whole bidding war thing. I know we didn't talk about that. I just assume a lot of it's common sense. If you price close to market and everyone's under the assumption that everyone's overpaying, even if you price a little high and everyone's under the assumption that you have to go above, you can pull in a really good sale price, purchase price.
Right now,
Right
we're in
now.
a seller's market. Price it appropriately, you're going to get multiple offers.
Yeah. But I'm talking like, let's go 1 or 2% over
No.
market value. Let's not go 10, 20% over. Like you will lose money by the time you have a realistic price point in front of the clients that are looking at the property.
So for me, that is my rant on overpricing.
Yeah.
I think we've gone on long enough, and we'll see you next week.
I'm going to say one more thing. The first couple listings I saw this week, it's like no-name agents with no-name brokers that I'm like, okay, whatever. They're getting their first listing. They get to throw a sign in. They get to start meeting some buyers. I get it. But then I see some shit, and I'm not going to say who it is, but like people in our company doing this shit with a lot of experience, and it's all over the board. I'm not going to single out our company and just be like, oh, we hired dumbasses. No, that's not true. We actually have some of the best agents here because they're vetted, and you have to have a minimum sales volume. No one can say bad shit about you. You can't have any negative experiences. Like, we have really good agents, but I just saw that one off, and I was just like, why did you do that? Like, I just want to shake their neck.
Oh, yeah. And I've seen agents.
Like, I get it's your farm, and you need another sign up, and I think I just answered my own question. That has to be the only fucking reason.
And that's a thing too. Like if your agent doesn't bring you the data, they overprice your house, it could just be for marketing for them.
Yeah.
They don't care if it sells. It's a sign in the yard for them, and it makes their farm look bigger.
Yeah.
It looks like they have more control on their farm, which I don't know. If you notice a lot of certain color signs with some people's names on them consistently just sitting there,
Yeah.
they might work that area, but they overprice that area.
Yeah, I think I know exactly what you're talking about. But yeah. Anyway, so I just want to get that off my chest so I could like sleep easy now, knowing that I was just like, hey, that wasn't cool.
Yeah,
And if you're watching this,
we'll price.
you know who you are.
Yeah, and if you're looking to sell, we'll price it correctly and get it sold.
Yeah. Well, maybe not. But we'll at least present you with all the information so both of us can make a decision together. And we probably won't screw up if there's like 2 or 3 heads there versus just one person saying, I'm going to control this whole situation. This is my price. This is what I want. And that's it.
I don't even want an overpriced listing. To be
I don't
honest.
anymore.
It's
I used
not
to.
worth it.
I used to, because for me, like earlier on in my career, it was practice. It was practice having those conversations with the sellers. How do you get someone to reduce a price when it's not a price reduction to get the house to sell? It's that to that seller, they're losing that money already, even though it's not in their freaking hand.
Yeah.
So yeah, after, if you do that for like 6 months, then move on. You learned your lesson. You learned how to speak to people. Please stop doing that because you're screwing shit up in the market, and it's making my job harder. And I have no control over what you do in crazy sellers.
All right. I think we're at time.
All right. Stay tuned for episode number 3. We will take requests for topics. So shoot them over.
Yeah.
We
Hit
will.
us up in the comments.
Goodbye.